tell you that when I fully surrendered, I wasn't scared. I was afraid. That was the first time that I was doing something like that. What if God failed me? What if God doesn't do anything and I'm sent out again? What will I do? Where will I go? Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I'll continue from where I stopped in my last video, where I shared my story of how I left home for Lagos 8 years ago. I stopped where my mom asked us to leave her house. If you're watching this one and you've not watched the part 1, go back and watch the part 1. No, you will not get the old gist. Go back to the part 1. I'll put the link here I'll put the link here on this video. After she asked us to leave, she locked her door and left. So we had no other choice but to leave. After we sorted out my siblings, my brother looked at me and asked me what next, like where was I going to stay? I told him I didn't have anywhere to stay because honestly, I didn't have a place to stay. I couldn't really stay with him because he was living with other guys. Then I told him about my plans to travel to Lagos, that I'd been nursing the idea of traveling to Lagos. So my brother advised me to make a move for it. Like, he told me to go because I had nowhere to stay, no place to go to, and what was the point? Like, what was holding me back? He just told me to go ahead. So I made the decision right there on the spot to travel to Lagos. So my trip to Lagos was really impromptu. I had just 1 week to make plans. I stayed with my brother for that 1 week before I left for Lagos. In that 1 week, I had to work a lot. So during that period, I was working on commission at that fashion house. I think at that time they were paying like 300 naira per one like school uniform short. Or I think 200 for the shorts, then 300 for the shirts for one. So imagine how many I had to sew to gather enough money to pay my tea fare and to take care of myself till I found a job in Lagos. I worked a lot that week. I also had help from the man that I mentioned earlier that introduced me to the fashion house. He also helped me. Like, when he saw that things were choking me, like a few days to when I was going to leave, I had a lot on my table to do and I couldn't give up on them because I wanted the money. I needed the money to travel. I didn't have any savings. The trip was impromptu. I had just 1 week to prepare. And I didn't have savings. Someone that was financially struggling, where would I have had money saved? So I didn't have any money saved. So I had to gather the money I had to gather the money for my trip in that 1 week. And there was no one I could have gone to ask for financial help. Like, nobody. My boss helped me with what she could. But I still had to like work. I didn't even know she was going to give me something. So I was working so hard to make sure I gather enough money for that trip. Because I didn't want to be broke as soon as I got to Lagos. So before I move forward, when I told my boss that I was going to relocate, she asked what my reason was. I told her I didn't have a place to stay. I told her the situation with my mom, and she offered me a place to stay actually, but I turned it down because right there, like, something in me knew that was the time to move. Something in me knew that was the sign I asked God for to make that move. So I turned that down. I told her I would rather just relocate instead of staying back, that I already made my decision. So I was grateful, but I turned it down because I knew I had to make that move. I knew it was time to move. I asked God for a very clear sign and he gave it to me. So there was no doubt anymore. I knew I should make the move. So I didn't accept her offer to stay back. And the offer was good actually. She said I could stay with my siblings there while I continue working, which was really good for me, but I knew it was time to move. So I called up my cousin, told them I had made up my mind to travel, and they gave me a date to come. I remember the day I traveled. It was Easter Monday, 17th of April 2017. It was this cousin that told me to come on that day because they were going to be off work on that day since it was a public holiday. I left very early that morning. I paid my fare, got on the bus. I sat in front. I was overwhelmed with feelings. I was afraid, uncertain, anxious, but I was also determined. So I called up my cousin to let them know that I had boarded the bus, but this person's number wasn't going through. Omo, come and see me. I was so worried. I got so worried. While I was waiting for the vehicle to fill up, I kept on calling because I think I was one of the first people. That's why I sat in front. I was one of the first people. I got there very early. I got to the park very early. I kept on calling this person until the bus filled up. And we're about to leave. This person's line wasn't going through. That like fear crept in immediately, doubt crept in. I started asking myself questions like, what if this person doesn't pick my call? What if I'm unable to reach this person by the time I get to Lagos? What will I do? Where will I go from there? Where will I stay? A part of me felt like just coming down, a part of me felt like I should just end the whole trip, like not continue, but I was determined. I knew I had to make that trip. So despite not hearing anything from that cousin or even knowing where I was going to, I made the move. I left. Halfway through the journey, this cousin of mine called and told me where I was going to meet up with them. So I'm really grateful that I didn't let that moment stop me from taking the trip. Also, I didn't even mention, my boss had told me that after my boss tried to persuade me to stay and I refused, my boss told me that if things didn't work out, I could come back and she would be open to still take me back. But I knew inside of me that there was no going back. I don't give up. Like, that's one of my strengths, and it's also a weakness, but it's one of my strengths. I really do not give up. I don't give up easily. Like, it takes a lot for me to give up. I was grateful for the offer, but I knew there was no going back. So that was how I made the move to Lagos. So my mom asking us to leave was the push I needed to make that move. Guess what? Do you know the day I got to Lagos, everything settled. Everything went back to normal. My siblings went back to my mom. Everything settled. So you can imagine, that was what really confirmed it that it was a sign. Not like I didn't know before that it was the sign I needed to. I knew it was the sign I needed. But what confirmed it for me was that the day I landed in Lagos, did I say land? I did not fly you. When I said land, it's not like I flew. I did not fly. Where I want to see money fly. I mean, the day I arrived in Lagos, I got to Lagos. That was the day my siblings went back to my mom and everything settled. Now getting to Lagos, Lagos was difficult. Like, my first year in Lagos was a struggle. It was really tough, but God was with me all the way. Transport alone finished my money going to look for jobs. I really struggled a lot because I think I traveled to Lagos with less than 20K. By the time I paid my tea fare, I think all I had left was 10 to 15K. Yeah, I think that was all I had left. Yeah, 10 to 15K. The struggle was real. I was homeless a lot of times, and during this period, I forgot to mention, I was battling with stomach ulcer. So you can imagine, there were times where I couldn't even afford a meal, I couldn't afford to eat for one day. Like, I'll go to bed, I'll wake up, no food, go to bed like that without food. Sometimes just Gary, I'll just soak Gary, and other times maybe custard. Then custard was like, I think 30 naira. So if I had 50 naira, I could just take custard. I'll go and buy custard, 30 naira, buy sugar, and then sugar 10 naira and biscuits. Hey, God, back then, hey, thinking about it now, God, that was how I was surviving. There were times where I thought the pain was going to kill me. Like, ulcer is not your meat. See, there were times where I really thought I was going to die from the pain, but here I am. Thank God for life. Thank God I didn't die, because when I was diagnosed of ulcer in Warri, I didn't get treated because some people, I don't want to mention names, but someone I was living with at the time told my dad that they would handle it, that I shouldn't be treated, that they were going to find traditional med for me, that you shouldn't bother spending money in the hospital to treat me. And this person made me suffer in pain. I didn't get treated at all, which made things worse for me over time. Thank God I made it. I didn't die. When I got to Lagos, the place I stayed in, the moment I got to that place, something in me just knew that I wasn't going to stay there for long. So I'm saying something in me because as at that time, I didn't know that was God leading me. So when I got to that place, I just knew that I wasn't going to stay there for long. And that was exactly what happened. I didn't stay there for long. And the way it happened was so funny. I was just in the house one day and I just saw people moving in. I just saw other people moving in with their things. Called up my cousin, like, what's going on? People are moving into this house. And this cousin said that someone else had rented the place. I was like, hey, so what do we do? Because it was someone's house now. I said it earlier. So this person said it's for us to leave now. So I packed up my bags, and at the time I had found some family friend that I knew back in Warri, and I moved into their place. See, I don't even want to go into details about everything that went on with those people. I'll prefer to leave it unsaid. But I also didn't stay long with those people before they asked me to leave. I moved from like one of the siblings' house to another sibling, and they threw me out at some point. It was really a tough time for me, but I'm thankful to all of you. Thank you for your help. See, I alone know why I'm laughing, and maybe some other people. I wish I could share this. I wish I could share that part, but let's just leave it unsaid. Let's leave it that way. I believe you guys sort of understand, right? Let's just leave it. I remember the day I was asked to leave. It was a hot afternoon. They threw me out, and I was just standing there crying. I called up my cousin again because we had separated after we left that first place. So we had separated. This cousin went their own way, and I also went my own way. So I had to call up this cousin again because they were the only one I knew in Lagos other than these family friends that threw me out. So I called up this cousin, and that day I was crying. I was frustrated. I didn't know where to go, what to do. I couldn't go back. I did not even have the money safe. I didn't even have the tea to go back to Warri. So going back to Warri was not an option. And like I mentioned earlier, I don't give up easily. It takes me a lot to give up on something. So I stood there crying, called up this cousin, and they asked me to come join them where they were staying at that time, which was one very small room. It was also another person's place. So we were 3 in the house. We're 3 in this small BQ. Very small room like this, like very small. The sleeping position was really funny. Guy, see, I have seen something. But thank God, I'm here today sharing this story. And to think that, let me pause first for a second and say this. To think that when I felt the urge to share this story, I didn't want to because I felt like I've not achieved like anything massive, something very loud. So what's the point of sharing the story? But God reminded me of where I was coming from, like the things I've been through, the things He has taken me through, like where I was coming from. And I knew that I didn't have to wait for one very big thing before I shared my story. So I'm really grateful to God for where He has taken me from and where I am today. Now back to the story, right? So I started staying again with this cousin at this small place, and we're managing. Then thankfully a friend I made in Lagos found me my first job at a fashion house, and this friend really supported me during this period. I'm so grateful to this friend. We're still friends right now. One of my besties. I'm really so grateful to this friend. I started working there for 30,000 naira. Yes, 30,000 naira. They even said there was no opening because this friend had, begged the person and they took me. I started working there for 30,000 naira, which was barely enough to pay tea fare and feed. It was a struggle. This friend of mine had to beg this boss of mine to be paying me weekly, like in 2 weeks. Instead of monthly, I was collecting my salary during the half of the month so that I could, get money for transport and to feed, because I didn't have any other source of income. No money was coming anywhere. If I didn't get the money at that half of the month, I won't be able to go to work or anything. And even on top of that, I was still struggling. There were times where I would not even eat at all. And there were times where I would just eat Gary. So see this Gary story here. A friend, because I told this, okay, it's the same person, this same friend of mine, because I told this friend of mine that, see, I don't mind if I see Gary. If I have Gary, I can manage. So this friend packed a lot of Gary for me. So I had a lot of Gary in the house to be soaking for a while. So during that period, I was mostly eating Gary daily. And for someone with ulcer, that was so unhealthy. I wasn't supposed to be soaking Gary. And to top it up every time, it was like my main food. No other nutrients. Nothing was coming from anywhere. It was mostly that Gary. Until a friend started sharing their own lunch with me. So this friend's office was close to where I was working. And when they found out that I was struggling to eat, this friend decided to be sharing their meal with me every afternoon. So for the times that they don't share their meal, I would just stay like that. And, the norm, soak Gary. For someone with ulcer, soaking Gary wasn't okay. It was unhealthy. But I had to pick my struggles. I had to pick my poison. Suffer the pain from eating too much Gary, or the pain from not eating at all. I picked the one from Gary because at least eating the Gary would give me strength, and I'll be able to walk and survive. I'll be able to live despite the pain. It was really a tough time. Now I can talk about it smiling and laughing, but during that time, it wasn't something I could smile about. It was a really tough time for me, and staying in that place wasn't also easy, considering the situation surrounding my whole living in that place with my cousin it wasn't good at all. So it was also a struggle. Just when I thought things were getting better, and I was, eating lunch from this friend, and there was also Gary to sustain me. I had a place to stay, I had a job, and I was improving, hoping that, okay, things are getting better. Salary would increase by the other month. Guess what? I became homeless again. See, my homelessness journey. If I begin to share every part of it, we will not leave this place. So I got homeless again as my cousin decided to leave that place, and I could not stay there while my cousin was leaving. I had to leave again. It was really tough because this time my cousin had decided that they were going to go back to Warri and encouraged me to come along. But your girl doesn't give up. I refused. I told this cousin that I wasn't going back. I've not seen enough to push me back. I had not seen enough. That more should come. There had to be something tough that would push me back. That it took me a lot to leave, to finally leave. Then I'll just go back just like that. I couldn't for the life of me go back. I couldn't see it happening. So I told this cousin that he could go alone, that I wasn't going to go. And that was it. I started looking for where to stay. I had joined a church during this period. I talked to people in church. Some people tried to help me, but they didn't have the means to help. I became homeless, and I mean really homeless. There were times where I didn't know where I would spend the night. Someone from church was helping me at some point. Like sometimes when they were available, I would spend the night at their place. Other times I would just, find a way. I can't even remember most of the place I spent the night right now, but I knew that during that period, I was carrying my clothes to work. I'll carry the clothes I will have to wear the next day to work, so that however the evening happens, whoever says you can come and spend the night, I'll have what to wear to go and spend the night at that person's place, because I had to completely leave that place that I was at with my cousin until someone from work offered me their place to stay for a while, which was really helpful to me as well. So I stayed there for a while, but they also had to leave, and I had to leave as well. It was always like that. After staying for a while, they would have to leave, and I would have to leave as well. This person was getting married, so I had to leave since they were moving to their husband's house, and I could not follow them to their husband's house now. It didn't make sense. So I tried to even return the place, see if I could pay for the place, but this person said someone had already paid for it, so I could not even stay in that place. I had someone that was willing to help with the money till I could raise it for myself. So, but this person said that I could not pay for the place, and I didn't even really like the place. Top it off, I did not like the place. They didn't have a toilet. Don't even ask me how I was managing. They didn't have a toilet, but because it was cheap now and just a roof over my head, I was willing to take it if it was available. So that was it. I couldn't pay for that place. I had to move again. I remember when I had to leave that place, I was crying every day at work. I'll be walking and you see tears flowing from my eyes because I didn't know what to do. I didn't know where to go. There was nowhere. I had exhausted my options. There was nowhere. I was so close to the deadline that this person had given me to leave for the new people to move in. I didn't know what to do or where to go. A church member that was helping me then also got married too. So I didn't even know where I could go to. It was so tough that I was just crying, and so close to the deadline they had given me, I had to pack my things. So on that day, I told my boss that I wasn't going to come to work because of the situation. I told my boss what was going on, but they wouldn't have any of it. My boss told me that if I skipped work for that day, they were going to deduct it from my salary and I'll face the consequences. But I didn't have any option. I didn't have anything to do. It's not like I had a choice in it. I had to move that day, and it's not like I even knew where I was going to. So I couldn't just move to the place and just go back to work. No. So that day I skipped work and I got back to work the next day, or I think 2 days later when I could find and I got back to work 2 days later, I think after I found somewhere to put my things. Then my boss asked me to leave because they did not permit me to take 2 days off. But I called, I sent messages, and I had told my boss before, but they thought I was playing, and I even sent pictures of my bags. I'll put the pictures right here. I sent pictures of my bags, like after packing my bags. But my boss was not having it. I guess like a lot of people are taking them for granted, lied with stories like that. So this boss thought that I was doing the same thing. So my boss sent me away from work that day, and I was just sad. I went to my friend. So the friend that I had mentioned that their office was close to my workplace. This friend that traveled, but because I was always going to their office to eat lunch with them, the people there knew me. This person's boss also knew me, so I could go there and stay. Nobody would ask me questions. So after my boss drove me, I didn't want to go home because it wasn't even like I had a home to go to. I'll just stay and chill. I didn't have a place. It's always like at night I would know where to sleep. So I just went there to just while away the time, and I was so sad. When I got there, I wasn't crying anymore, but I was really sad, and you could tell from my face that this person had been crying. When you are at a point where, imagine, like, just, try to picture it. I was homeless, trying to find a place to stay. Not like I had found a place. And I couldn't come to work due to that. I had even told my boss. Only for me to manage and come to work, and they are sending me away after wasting transport I could have used to eat. So just imagine how I was feeling that day. Just imagine, like, I had cried so much that my face was swollen. My friend's boss saw me and called me to their office and asked what was wrong with me. And I didn't even want to say, because during that time, I wasn't used to telling people what was going on with me. I wasn't used to talking. I wasn't used to sharing my burden with others. I was used to carrying the weight alone. I was used to bearing things, taking it all in, like, by myself, struggling by myself, sorting things out by myself. So I couldn't even bring myself to tell them what was happening until this person pushed. There's a way someone would, like, whine you, talk and talk, especially when you are, like, at a breaking point. You won't know when you just break down, melt down and just pour everything out. So when this person kept on asking with care and everything, and at some point I broke down. I broke down in tears and told them what was going on with me. Because to start with, it was my friend's boss, not even my friend. My friend's boss, telling my friend's boss what I was going through was somehow for me then. Because not like we were close or anything. So I told them what was happening, and I didn't know that God was setting up everything. See, that day, I didn't know that was God setting up everything. My boss asking me to leave. See, the way things happened, you just know that God was setting things strategically, putting me in places where I was supposed to be at the time. After I told my friend's boss everything, they offered to help. They said, let's see what God has to say about it. So when this person said that, like, let's see what God has to say about it, I was like, after everything, you're not telling me you will help me. You're saying, let's see what God has to say about it. See, that was painful, but I left it. That day passed. I resumed. My boss called me back to work, and those days was deducted from my salary. Even the day my boss drove me, they deducted that one from my salary as well. Salary that was not enough for me to eat, to imagine.